Good evening and salutations, my Beyond the Gates fans. You know, as I'm watching this Ashley and Derek scene, in the beginning, she seemed like she's having a dream she's having a dream about Andre. And up until a point, Ashley has been made to look like the villain in this relationship. She comes across like she really takes Derek, which seems like a good guy, for granted, right? She says things like, "Oh, I'm not ready," and you've been with him for 2 years, and you couldn't even sit there and live in the same space after 2 goddamn years. She also comes across like she is making herself out to be the victim, right? So a lot of people, when we're watching this, we're like, damn, Derek deserves better, right? It hit me today that, in a sense, this is kind of bad storytelling on their part. I've been so focused on disliking Ashley that she said something today. She was like, marriage isn't going to sit there and fix our problems. And we haven't really been happy in a long time. Now, all this stuff that she seemed like all this stuff that she's talking about comes across like this stuff has been happening off screen, right? Now, yes, we can all sit there and be like, well, damn, if you haven't really been happy and y'all been having problems, have you sat there and tried to talk about it? Has he sat there and just blown you off? Is it one of those situations where you just feel like he's a mind reader? Like, what is going on? For her to sit there and say that, for her to be like, oh, well, we haven't really been happy in a while, I'm like, yeah, it seemed like you were happy. Yeah, you moved in together and it wasn't right. You moved back out and everything seemed like it was fine. And then it's like y'all just started looking for these problems that weren't there. So I'm like, when she says that, I'm like, if this stuff is true and he's using this marriage as a band-aid, then why are they only sit there showing her as being the shitty partner in this relationship? This is what I mean when I'm sitting there saying like it's bad storytelling. You know? We haven't seen, besides the whole them living together, which, hey, listen, you gotta find a way to sit there and adjust with each other sometimes when you are moving in together. You can be in a relationship, but moving in together, yeah, it's the blending of two worlds, and most importantly, two different habits. But that could not have been the thing that had been like, oh, that was like the final straw. And I think that we need to see some of these things that she's talking about. Because, usually sometimes when a relationship ends, it's not just on her, it's not just on him, it's usually a combination of both. But they've been telling the story so messed up that we're only sitting there seeing Ashley being the bad guy. Or, I don't want to say bad girl because I kind of like my bad girls, but you know what I'm saying. So, we have Chelsea and Madison meeting the family, and you know how Danny is. Danny wants to be extra, so Danny gets Nicole, Danny gets Vernon, and Chelsea's like, don't you think this is a little bit too much? But Danny. Danny got to sit there and go 120, right? So Nicole comes in there, and Nicole starts bumbling on her words, like, oh, I didn't know you were out, or I didn't, like, girl, your son is out. Why are you acting so weird about that? And then Vernon gets downstairs, and he starts to meet them, and, long story short, he just feels like she's moving too fast. I mean, the girl sat there and said that she's in love. She's in. You know what? I'm gonna refrain from saying something negative about her tonight. I'm gonna refrain from saying something negative about her tonight because I feel like I just need one night when I talk about her that I don't say that I'm not an asshole, okay? And the thing is, she brings it out of me to some extent, but I'm not gonna do that tonight. Um, but yeah, they meet. He gets to know her and everything like that, and he's just like she's in a sense he kind of psychoanalyzes her, which could be an annoying thing to some extent, but whatever happened to her last interaction with the other chick and the husband because didn't work out. Um, Between that, her being hurt because of her dad and everything like that, she's in a vulnerable place, and that's not a recipe for trying to meet somebody new and starting something new. So he just feels like she's just kind of going on autopilot, and yeah, it may not end out well for her. Whew, that was close. You don't understand how tempted it was to sit there and be an asshole, but I'm like, I'm not gonna do that tonight. Um, Meanwhile, Nicole and Danny are talking, and Nicole talks about lies and secrets and everything like that, and Danny's like, hey, listen, me and Andre have been sleeping together for months, and she is livid. She's livid about a couple of things. That's her young nephew. At first, she says something about age appropriate, which I'm not even gonna go there. It was like, I'm not gonna go there. But what it really comes down to it more of is just the lies. Everyone has been lying to her so far. Ted has been lying to her. Now Danny's lying to her. Eva was lying to her, and she's just kind of done. So she leaves, and when Verna gets back, Verna's like, "So what happened? Why did she leave?" Oh, and Danny's like, "Oh, we have to work." Verna's like, "Okay, so that's your story, and you're gonna stick to it, huh?" And he knows it wasn't so much of a work thing. Now you got Ted and Andre. And Andre actually gives Ted advice about relationships, which I'm just like, the dude don't even do relationships. So, like, what movies have you been watching to sit there and get this vast wisdom from? And long story short, after he gives Ted a heads up that Danny knows that he knows about those two, he pretty much tells him to just don't give up. See, Ted has been keeping his distance, right? But, Andre's like, you don't want to sit there and let too much time pass by because once it's stagnant, it's going to stay stagnant. He's like, you got to do something. So he gives her flowers, and he sees her, takes the flowers, and everything like that. And, I don't know. It's a damn if you do, damn if you don't, right? Because he starts doing stuff like that, she may get upset. He does nothing, time passes, and it gets a little more easier to sit there and avoid him. It gets a little more easier to not have to work on her end on trying to see if she could forgive him. So I can see both sides of it. Oh, and also Derek was went there because she had a hangover, right? And he came there, he helped her and gave her some aspirins and stuff like that just to try to make her feel better. Went to the store to get her some ibuprofen, I'm assuming, or whatever. And he was like, all right, you're feeling better, so I'm going to leave. And she's like, no, you can't keep me hanging. And I'm like, here we go again. He's trying to sit there and break out with you since you don't want to marry him. And that's when, again, she's like, oh, well, you can't, we have a lot of problems and marriage is not a band-aid to sit there and fix our problems. The problem is, what problems are you talking about? What problems has he done or things that's going on in this relationship that you feel that she's using marriage as a band-aid? Because we haven't seen it. And all that comes across as you're either gaslighting him or you're trying to twist the situation around to try to make it seem like, oh, well, you're only doing this to sit there and try to test me. Now is you're only sitting there doing this to sit there and put a band-aid on our broken relationship or the problems of our relationship. I'm like, well, which one is it? Is it a loyalty test? Is it a way to fix things? If she wasn't happy, when was this? Um oh, see again, Jacob and Naomi in a bed. They're talking about Ashley and Derek's relationship, and Naomi's like, hey, listen, I was just kind of hanging out with Ashley, trying to console her and make her feel better, and Jacob was like, wait. Ashley broke Derek's heart. So why does Ashley need to be consoled again? Like, why are we doing that? Derek also adds, is there somebody else? And that's when Jacob was like, I think it could be Andre. I think Andre could sit there and Andre likes Ashley. Anyway, they get into a little bit about it. They get more into about it. Watch the episode, you see what I'm talking about, but kind of weird to sit there and be in bed and be talking about your friend's relationship problems. Like, I'm in bed with my wife. I'm not sitting there talking about, so you know about that whole thing that's going on, right, with those two. But, okay, sure, whatever. Bill, I don't know how many more scenes of these that I can do. Okay, I don't know how many scenes I could sit there and do with you whining and bitching and complaining about Shanice and PT, and you can't eat what you want to eat, and you can't sit there and drink before noon, and you know Haley once sat there and said, for such an alpha male, da 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 at one point, and I'm like, bro, you're not acting like an alpha male, you're acting like a little bitch right now. Like you really are at this point, and it's just every single day since he's been in that hospital. The minute he has to sit there and do the thing is, it's supposed. The thing is, it's this scene is supposed to probably come across as endearing and cute and funny, and it just comes across as obnoxious. It really does. Anyway, Naomi gets over there, and there's one point where Naomi's like, oh, it seems what you're doing is not really that bad or whatever. And Haley was like, yeah, you tell him. Remember those times you sit there and do those Pilates classes or whatever? And Naomi was like, yeah, is that before you sat there? Is that before you had, interest in, sleep with my dad or whatever? And Bill was like, whoa, that's uncalled for, right? And on some level, it probably was because, she does sit there and be like, I do want to thank you for looking out for my dad. But part of me kind of sits there and I'm like, Haley, why are you doing this for? Hell, at one point she's like, oh, I'm not going to sit there and start trying to be friends with you. Why? Why? You chose her dad over your goddamn friendship. It is what it is at this point. You're not going to sit there and get this girl to change her goddamn mind. Why are you still fucking trying? That's the shit that just annoys me with her. There's a point at the end where he takes out $1 million life insurance policy or whatever. Now, if they actually sat there and they wrote Haley in a way where it would just be more Vixen-like, then I can see Haley being like, okay, well, this is part of my plan and it's working and everything like that. But Haley just comes across as just dumb. I mean, she lacks self-awareness, and I think that's one of my biggest issues with Haley is that she lacks self-awareness. So, it's just there's some problems with this show. There's some problems with this show that but I don't know. I'll leave it at that. Now I said this in my review. I said this in my post. But this video is coming out a little bit later on because I want to take my time to do it right. I want to put in the same. I put in a lot of time and effort into my General Hospital review because the cast is so long, and I want to sit there and make sure I cover each character right. And the same amount of effort and energy that I put into that, it's the same amount of effort and energy I'm going to put in my Beyond the Gates review and any other review that I do just in general. So it takes a little longer to sit there and do these type of reviews, but I don't want to sit there and rush stuff. And since I already got it to work late, I wasn't able to do a live stream today. And tomorrow I'm getting out the same time as today. So like I said in my posts, most likely I'm not going to be able to do a live stream into Friday. But I don't like to sit there and try to half-ass everything. I don't like to try to half-ass my reviews and stuff like that. So I could have probably did one. I just would have had to skip doing a review on this. And I don't know. I'm just sitting there thinking about trying to review B&B, but it's just hard with the time and everything. And when I start to think about it, I'd rather do 2 good reviews than 3 mediocre reviews. Anyway, with that being said, I'm going to go. I'll see you in the next video.